So for this version of Chow Chow, we're going to ferment it for 2 weeks. So what we have here is half a head of cabbage. We're going to throw it into our fermenting crock. Now I just use just a regular head of cabbage. If you use Napa or some other like a Filipino variety, they're gigantic. So I would try to stay with one of the more North American varieties. They're a bit smaller. And because that right there, half of a North American head of cabbage just filled up half the vessel. We got half of it says Vidal onion or sweet onion, diced up. Now, it calls for 2 medium green tomatoes. Being that we're in Edmonton in February, you're not going to find green tomatoes right now. So we threw a bit of a curveball and we went with tomatillos. So we got 2 medium-sized tomatillos diced up. All right, then we got 1 green pepper and 1 red pepper diced. Okay, now that that's done, we're just going to get a wooden spoon. We're going to mix that up, and then we're going to move to the brine. All right, so we've got the vegetables kind of all mixed up in there. And now we're going to take our weights, and we're going to pin these down. And all this is going to do is hold the vegetables below the brine for the ferment. Okay, so for the brine, we've got 2.5 cups of unchlorinated water, and then we've got 2 tablespoons of non-iodized salt. And the reason we go with no chlorine and no iodine is just for all those bacteria and stuff that are involved in the ferment. It's not good for them. So we want to promote that bacteria to kind of do its thing, because this is going to be sitting out for 2 weeks. We'll give that a little mix. And then inside it goes. All right, so we've got everything in there now. Now I added a little extra brine just because of the size of the container we're doing it in, just to try to bring it as close to the top as possible. Just make sure you're following the same ratio of 2.5 cups to 2 tablespoons. The salt ratio is really important to make sure that no mold or any of that kind of stuff happens and you get the proper lacto ferment. So right now mine's kind of sitting at the top, and then what's going to happen is if you've ever made sauerkraut, that cabbage and those vegetables are going to let loose a whole bunch more water to cover it up. So in the first day or 2, take a peek just to make sure everything is at least covered with that water. So for now, I'm going to close this up. Now you can do this in a jar, you can do this, you can buy your own vessel like I have. And this one in particular has a water seal. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pour water kind of all around the outside of it there. And what that's going to do now is that air can't get into the stuff, but when it releases gases, they can come out through the water. So we're going to let it sit at room temperature for 2 weeks, and then we're going to see how it does. Okay, so we've been fermenting for 2 weeks, and now it's time to get the Chow Chow all together. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to strain this and reserve as much of the brine as we can, because we're going to want about 1/4 cup of this brine for the final Chow Chow. All right. So this brine, we're just going to keep about 1/4 cup of it. All right, now the solids are done, and this smells absolutely incredible. All right, so in a blender or food processor, we're going to put in our fermented kind of Chow Chow vegetables here. All right, now for the rest of it, we're going to put in our 1/4 cup of the brine. We've got 1/2 cup of sugar. We've got 2 cups of white vinegar. And this is important because this is going to stop the fermentation process so it doesn't just keep fermenting. We've got 2 tablespoons of yellow mustard, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, Got a teaspoon of celery seeds, teaspoon of turmeric powder, and a teaspoon of mustard seeds. All right. And now we're going to get ready. We're going to pulse this up, but we want it thick like a relish. So we'll get the blender set up and off we go. And we're just going to pulse this until we get that consistency that we're looking for. And I would say we're probably already there. All right, so now we get this ready to go into the fridge. And yeah, I'm really excited to try this. It smells absolutely incredible. All right, so we got it all out. I will say this came out really watery, so I had to drain out a lot of the water to kind of get this more of a relish kind of coleslaw consistency, but we'll give it a go. Whoa! Very tart. The tomatillos, very tart. But this would be absolutely amazing on a hot dog or a sausage on a bun or a hamburger. That is amazing flavors. Like everything's combining into one. So yeah, for my first shot at making chow chow, the fermented version is definitely a thumbs up. Hope you enjoy.